Well, Rob Goldstone is speaking out. You know, he's the colorful British music promoter who set up that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting between the Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya and her Russian colleagues and Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort. Well, Goldstone today claims that allegations of a Russian plot to tip the election involving him are, quote, ridiculous. And he says that he puffed up those claims in that infamous email that promised dirt from the Russians on Hillary Clinton. All this comes as Kushner is now under growing scrutiny in all this. The top two senators on the Judiciary Committee claiming he did not hand over documents about WikiLeaks and a Russian outreach to the Trump campaign. Kushner's lawyer, though, says no. He maintains that all relevant documents have been produced. But Senator Mark Warner, who is the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, says Kushner may have some more explaining to do.
Again, won't comment on these stories. It's, again, one of the reasons why we need to still bring in Mr. Kushner.
And you definitely want to see him in public, again, not just in private.
Well, that's something we have to, still, Chairman and I and others have to work through with the committee members. And I think the more transparent we can be is always good, but I also think, we've got to work through a process.
And meanwhile, investigators are expected to soon interview these two people, White House Communications Director Hope Hicks on the right, and there's Rob Goldstone, who says in that interview with the London Times that's owned by our sister company News Corp that he's keen to talk. Andy Stein, former Manhattan Borough President, former President of the New York City Council, and a former chairman of Democrats for Trump, who comes from a long, prominent Democratic family in New York, is here with us now. So first, let me start with Rob Goldstone. He says he set up the meeting claiming that Hillary Clinton had dirt, that he was puffing it up in terms of any Crown prosecutor, that he was not part of any Russian plot. He says he doesn't know if there were a Russian plot, but he calls this whole thing ridiculous. So he's supposed to be like the point man, isn't he?
Oh, I think it's all nonsense, Eric. I think he's a hustler. He was trying to be a big shot. I don't think he really had anything to do substantively with any of this. I think that's all a lot of nonsense.
Does he sound like the type of person that the FSB, the Russian intelligence, would corral and go in to try to get a contact with the Trump administration or campaign?
That's possible. They're all Putin. It comes from, as you know, the KGB background. They're always fishing for stuff. But I know the campaign, and this guy Goldstone was just a character, a BS artist who was trying to, look like a big shot. But I don't think it meant anything.
I guess you could say BS artist, on cable television, on news. Meanwhile, part of the Times of London interview with this guy is fascinating. He says that he tried to set up a meeting with Putin and President Trump, but that the president of Norway, I think, got stuck in traffic. So Putin had to delay it, had to cancel this potential meeting, a few years ago. He also says that the Russians, in his words, were desperate to try to meet Mr. Trump because they idolized Donald Trump. Here's what else he said in that interview about that email, about the whole investigation. He said, quote, "I should have listened to that little voice in my head, but I never thought in a million years that an email I wrote in about 3 minutes to Don Jr. would be examined by the world many times over. I just needed to get him to respond. I could have said that the Russian attorney believes she found a black hole or believes Santa is real. It didn't really matter. So when he replies, if it's what you say it is, I love it, I just thought my teaser had worked. If I'm guilty of anything, and I hate the word guilty, it's hyping the message and going the extra mile for my clients, using hot-button language to puff up the information I had been given. I didn't make up the details. I just made them sound more interesting." I guess that's what he'll say to the investigators when he appears.
Eric, the real Russian collusion here, the real Russian investigation, in my mind, is the uranium one. That we know. We're talking about $145 million that were given to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, but that may be investigated, and that there was a committee, an international committee at the State Department, and 9 cabinet members, not her, they say, had to sign over that. And that's not yet, being investigated at the moment, but all this other stuff is. And you got a guy like Rob Goldstone and maybe Hope Hicks soon who could be called in, to testify about all this.
I don't think Goldstein means anything, and I think that Hope will be fine. Dianne Feinstein and Grassley are very respected. They're going to call back Jared Kushner, and they'll get to the bottom of it.
And meanwhile, Jared Kushner, as we heard, may be called back over the allegation that he had connections with WikiLeaks. His lawyer, Abby Lowell, is denying it. I mean, this is where this stuff gets reported or maybe misreported. He says that there is a email chain that mentions WikiLeaks. It's not WikiLeaks contacting Jared Kushner, but that somehow that doesn't come out.
I think that Jared Kushner is going to go back before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Grassley and Feinstein are behaving in a very nonpartisan way, and they'll get to the truth with Kushner. And
there's an email. Let me show you this email in terms of another Russian that tried to reach out to the campaign. And Jared Kushner is saying in this email, no, don't do it. He says, quote, here's the Kushner email, according to Abby Lowell, his attorney. Pass on this. In other words, don't meet the Russian. A lot of people come claiming to carry messages. Very few were able to verify. For now, I think we decline such meetings. Most likely, these people then go back home and claim they have special access to gain importance for themselves. Be careful. So it sounds like Jared's counsel is don't do anything with the Russians. Stay away. And he's pretty savvy and wise about, them trying to use potential access for their own purposes. You know what campaigns are like, Eric, and I've been, even my little citywide campaigns that I've been in, they're hectic as could be. I mean, and the presidential campaign was crazy. It's so much pressure. I really don't believe that there's any Russian collusion. I think it's really nonsense. Not that the Russians may not have tried to gain influence. They're always trying to get an edge, but I don't think there was any organized collusion. And bottom line, finally, as you say, you've been in campaigns. I mean, everyone's trying to get, grab a piece of something, have a meeting with somebody else, and it's chaos sometimes. Campaigns are always chaotic, as you know, and the national campaigns, presidential campaigns are the most chaotic. And I really don't believe there's any collusion, on the part of the Trump campaign. All right, well, it's all under investigation, and we shall all at some point see what happens. Andy Stein, prominent Democrat in New York, thank you. Thank you, sir. Of course.